Alright guys, today we're going to be talking about changes in demand. So, what happens to our price level, our equilibrium price, our equilibrium quantity if we have either an increase in demand or a decrease in demand. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of those things. So if you recall, it was already in a previous video about the things that change demand. Remember, there's a difference between a change in demand and a change in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded is caused by one thing and one thing only, and that is the change in the price of that good or service. And that looks like a movement along the demand curve. On the other hand, we have a change in demand which causes the demand curve to shift to the right or to the left. If it shifts to the right, that's because it was an increase in demand. If it shifts to the left, it's a decrease in demand. So we can start, so we're starting here, this is with a market in equilibrium. So the question will always tell you your starting point, or it might show you the starting point. In this case we have our equilibrium, so E1, which is telling us that is our initial equilibrium. We have Q1 and P1. So in the previous videos I've used actual numbers and prices and quantities to show it. At this point forward we're going to start using variables, which is how the questions will generally be. So P1, this is our first initial price level. Q1 is our initial quantity, so that number is important because it tells us which is first, second, etc. So P1 and Q1, initial price, initial quantity, E1. Now this is an increase in demand, so demand is going to shift to the right. So we're going to keep our slope basically looking the same. We draw a new demand curve, make sure that we now label our demand curve D1 and D2 to show, again, which one's first. And another way to show which one's first and second is to draw the arrow to show it's shifting to the right. So we see here demand is shifted to the right. That is an increase in demand. Now what we want to also take notice of is how this affects the equilibrium. So we have a new point of equilibrium, E2. And it's not just that the equilibrium changes, but so does the equilibrium quantity and price. So we do this. Something like that, we have Q2 and P2, again, so we can see what's happened to price and quantity. And what has happened is the quantity has increased, as has the price. So when we have an increase in demand, price increases and the quantity increases. So we see both things increase when we increase quantity demand. What are the things that can cause this? So again, we did discuss this previously, but just to reiterate, and so you can see it, if the price of a substitute were to increase, so again, if we're doing hamburgers and hot dogs as our substitutes, if the price of hamburgers goes up, well, that's going to cause us to demand more hot dogs because hamburgers are more expensive and they generally serve the same purpose. If the price of a complement goes down, so if the price of hot dog buns, they're buy one, get one free, that could cause us to buy more hot dogs. So again, shifts to the right. If that item becomes more popular, so that would be the change in taste. If it becomes more popular, it becomes in style, in fashion, then that's going to cause it to increase. If we have more income, so simply having more money. If we expect a higher future price, so if we expect the price of hot dogs to go up in the future, today's demand will increase. And the last one is pretty simple. Simply if there are more consumers, then that also will cause our demand to increase. On the other hand, what can cause our demand to decrease? Well, we have, again, it's just the opposite things there, so there's not a whole lot of need to go through that specifically, but what does it look like? Well, remember, increase right, decrease left. So, if we're talking about a decrease in demand, that means our demand curve has shifted left. And so again, make sure you label everything D1 and D2, show the leftward shift. And now we have our new point of equilibrium. The easy thing about this is that everything is pretty much the exact opposite of the one we just did. So now we have E2, and we can see it with our eyes, but we're going to draw it to each axis anyway. And we notice here that Q2 is now to the left of Q1, showing that there has been a decrease in the quantity. P2 is lower than P1, so there has been a decrease in the price as well. So a decrease in demand leads to a lower price level and a lower quantity or lower output. The things that cause that, if the price of a substitute were to decrease, so hamburgers go on sale, that causes us to demand fewer hot dogs. the price of a complement goes up. So now the price of hamburger, or hot dog buns, hot dog buns go way up, they become more expensive. We don't buy as many hot dogs now, so our demand shifts left. If it becomes simply less popular, that one's basic. This should say if we have lower income, so if we have a decrease in income, that's going to cause our demand to shift left because we simply have less money. If we expect lower future prices, we're going to wait. We're not going to buy it today. We'll wait till the future, so today's demand curve shifts left. And if there are fewer consumers, that will also decrease our demand. So remember, a change in demand, a shift in the demand curve is caused by these things. It is not caused by a change in the price. So that's pretty much it. That's what it looks like. That's how you graph it. I know it's annoying, but make sure you bring it out to each axis so you see the change in price and the change in quantity. Okay? Till next time, this has been a LaMoney production.